AITA for ignoring my family's big news years after they supported my cheating ex? 4 days ago, I received a call from my family after 2 years of complete silence. This silence was the result of a disaster at my engagement party, where my fiancée was unfaithful with my own brother, forcing me to cut ties with all of them. To give you some context, my fiancée, Jenna, my brother, Caleb, and I all went to the same high school. We had known each other for years. Jenna was in my grade, while Caleb was 2 years younger. Caleb and I were very close growing up. We were part of the same circle of friends, which meant he was also friends with Jenna. I asked Jenna to be my date for senior prom, and we started dating after that. We even attended the same state university and had been together for almost 7 years when I proposed. She said yes, and we got engaged. That afternoon, I organized a small party at our apartment, inviting only our families and a few close friends to celebrate before we made the announcement on social media. I was so caught up in the celebration that I failed to notice the strange undercurrents around me. I didn't see that Caleb seemed deeply upset while trying to maintain a happy facade. I also didn't notice that he had stepped out onto the back patio to smoke, or that Jenna, who had excused herself to use the restroom, had been gone for nearly 15 minutes. When I finally realized Jenna had been away for so long, I decided to check on her. I walked towards the bathroom, but to my surprise, she wasn't there. A gut feeling told me to check the patio. I saved myself from a terrible marriage in that moment because, peering through the sliding glass door, I saw my brother kissing my fiancée. I'd already had a bad feeling when they left the room one after the other, and seeing this scene with my own eyes was devastating. I stood frozen for a few seconds before I finally reacted, yelling at them and causing them to jump apart. They tried to play innocent, an obviously useless act considering what I had just witnessed. I went back inside the apartment, a storm of emotions raging inside me. I don't even remember exactly what they were trying to say to me. All I recall is Caleb trying to talk, but I was completely checked out, not hearing a word. I walked back into the living room with them trailing behind me, and without waiting for them to speak, I announced what I had seen. I told our families that the engagement was, regrettably, canceled because Jenna was a cheater and Caleb had no sense of loyalty. Jenna burst into tears, and Caleb tried to comfort her, which only fueled my anger. I ordered both of them to get out of my apartment. At the time, Jenna and I lived together, but the lease was in my name. We split the rent, so she tried to argue, claiming she wouldn't leave because she hadn't done anything wrong. This, naturally, stunned me, as I considered kissing your fiancé's brother the very definition of doing something wrong. But she went on to explain. She said she had only agreed to go out with me in high school because she needed a date for prom. Even in college, she thought she loved me, but she had come to realize she didn't. Over the past few years since graduation, she had realized she had feelings for Caleb, not me. Apparently, living with me made her understand that our relationship would never work because we were too different. She called me a workaholic who didn't know how to have fun and accused me of being too controlling and possessive. Honestly, I had no idea what she was talking about. I work a standard 40-hour week and definitely don't prioritize my job over my personal life. As for having fun, I don't know what she was referring to. I consider myself a pretty fun guy. I won't even address the controlling and possessive comments, because I don't believe I ever acted that way with her. I think she was just looking for excuses to end things, so she constructed this narrative in her head and started believing it. She told me she had been confiding in Caleb about her problems with me for a few years and had gradually fallen in love with him. She claimed they had never been together physically, but the engagement made her realize she couldn't continue the charade. When she saw that Caleb also seemed upset and needed to leave the room, she took it as a sign and followed him to the patio. They confessed their feelings for each other, and it was only after this confession that they kissed for the first time. They said the only reason they had held back was that Jenna and I had been together for so long, and neither of them wanted to hurt me. That was the only reason she had accepted my proposal. She thought he would never make a move because he loved his brother. Caleb felt the same, believing he had no chance with Jenna because she loved me, even though she constantly complained about me to him. But after their conversation on the patio, they realized an engagement to me would never work because they were in love with each other. Now, Jenna wanted to break off the engagement and pursue a real relationship with my brother. Our families and friends were in shock. I felt utterly humiliated, but there was nothing else to be done. Jenna's parents, thankfully, were reasonable people. They apologized for their daughter's actions and told her that while she was free to do as she pleased, they didn't want to speak with her for the time being. My parents, on the other hand, proved to be the worst. They actually started defending Jenna and Caleb. They tried to tell me it was natural for Jenna to fall out of love with me and that I shouldn't take it so hard. They said these things happen, and all I could do was move on. In fact, they expected me to support Jenna and Caleb's new relationship. When I tried to point out how absurd their position was, they became exasperated. They told me I had always been a difficult person and that it wasn't surprising Jenna had left me for Caleb, who was much more laid back. They called me too rigid and claimed they knew my relationship with Jenna wouldn't last because she was my complete opposite and had always been more like my brother. My entire family seemed to have lost their minds. I was so upset that I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with them. All they wanted to do was celebrate the fact that Jenna and Caleb were finally together because, I suspect, my parents already knew he had feelings for her. They went out of their way to make me feel responsible for my own relationship's failure, acting as if everything Jenna said about me was true, which I suppose justified her actions in their eyes. At least my friends were on my side. They helped me pack a few bags, and one of them let me crash at his place for the next few weeks, as I couldn't bear to go back to my own apartment. Unfortunately, the engagement party wasn't the last I saw of them. I had lived in that apartment for a long time, practically since I graduated college, and one afternoon wasn't enough to move all my belongings. Jenna paid me back for my half of that month's rent, and every time I went back to get my things over the following weeks, Caleb was always there with her, which annoyed me to no end. After I finally got all my stuff, she gave me back the ring, and I decided to cut ties with everyone. I stayed in sporadic contact with my parents for a few weeks, but I couldn't believe they genuinely supported what Caleb had done. They insisted that if Jenna wasn't happy with me, it was her decision who to be with, and if she chose Caleb, it wasn't wrong for him to accept. If they loved each other, it didn't matter that she had been unfaithful or that he had betrayed me. They were meant to be together, and my parents were going to support them regardless of my feelings. No matter how much I denied it, they kept repeating Jenna's accusations, that I was controlling, possessive, never had time for her, and didn't know how to have fun. At one point, I actually started to question myself. So I talked to a few of my closest friends, people who had known me, Jenna, and Caleb since high school, and had always been straight with me. I trusted them to tell me the truth. They assured me that everything she said was nonsense, and that she had simply fabricated those claims to justify her behavior. They confirmed I worked a reasonable amount, just like anyone else. I was a fun person, maybe not the life of the party like my brother, but I knew how to relax. As for being controlling and possessive, my friends completely refuted it. This strengthened my belief that my family and Jenna had tried to manipulate me into thinking I deserved what happened. Eventually, I stopped talking to them and managed to cut ties with my family as well. Then, last week, my mom called. At first, I declined the call and even blocked her number, but she persisted. She started calling from another number, and when I realized it was her, I ignored it again. She kept calling, and after nearly 4 hours of nonstop ringing every minute, I finally answered, thoroughly irritated. But when I picked up, I heard her sobbing on the other end. I was so confused, I had no idea why she was crying. Instead of yelling at her as I had planned, I asked what was wrong. She told me that Caleb and Jenna had been in a serious accident. A truck had crashed into their car, and they were both in a coma, in terrible shape. I am not exaggerating when I say I felt a surge of sympathy for them. I told my mom to stay strong, because despite what they did to me, this was truly awful, and I certainly didn't wish this upon them. My mom couldn't stop crying, so she passed the phone to my dad, who was slightly calmer. He told me he was calling to ask me to come visit and provide some support during this time. I didn't understand what he meant by support. I was sure Caleb and Jenna had health insurance, so he couldn't be asking for money. As for emotional support, they had each other. I didn't see what I could offer. They hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, so I didn't understand why he suddenly wanted me there for them. A few minutes later, my dad clarified, and I am still in shock. Apparently, he wanted me to help by taking care of Caleb and Jenna's 2-month-old baby. The entire pregnancy was news to me. No one had told me, partly because I had left that life behind, and partly because Caleb and Jenna had been living in Oklahoma. Caleb was working on a project there when they found out she was pregnant, and they decided to stay through the pregnancy and birth. They had friends and some extended family there, so everything was fine. Their family had even traveled to be there when the baby was born. The people who told me about their wedding didn't know about the baby either, as they had lost touch. But now, they were in the hospital after this terrible accident. Honestly, hearing this left me numb. I didn't know how to react. My dad told me that for now, they had hired a nanny to look after the baby, but they needed to think about a long-term solution. The medical team had told them Caleb and Jenna had a slim chance of survival. So my dad was calling to say that if anything happened to them, he wanted me to help raise the baby. He thought it was the most logical way to handle the situation and wanted me to visit the baby to try and bond with him. I found the idea utterly ridiculous, and I immediately told him I wouldn't do it. Absolutely everything about his suggestion was incredibly problematic, and I wanted no part of it. But instead of accepting my answer, he started yelling, saying I was being selfish and that this wasn't the time to make it about me. It was about Caleb and Jenna, who were in a coma. He said the family needed me, and above all, my nephew needed me, so I had to be there for everyone instead of living in the past. But it's not that I said no out of resentment. I refused because the entire situation is just completely bizarre. I don't want to build a relationship with my nephew under these circumstances. I didn't even know he existed until a few days ago, and suddenly I'm expected to take on the responsibility of caring for him, as if he were my own, and potentially raise him if his parents don't make it. His parents are a whole other issue I don't even want to get into. The bottom line is, I don't want to see anyone from my family right now. My emotions are a mess, and I really don't think I want to be in a situation where I have to build a relationship with a child who has a high probability of becoming an orphan. The child is not to blame, but it would just be too strange. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm simply not ready. My parents say it's unfair and insist I need to go to the hospital to see my nephew and be there for them. That made me feel like a total jerk, and I really don't know what to do. Update 1. Thank you all for your comments and advice. I don't have an answer as to why they got married and had a child so quickly, but it's true I always found their excuse that they only kissed at the engagement party ridiculous. But I never had any way, or desire, to prove it. I mean, she had just left me. It wouldn't have changed my situation much, other than to hurt me more. Returning to the present, I think the best thing for me right now is to stay away. I know this isn't about me. They were in an accident and are in the hospital. I don't wish them ill. I let go of my grudge a long time ago, but it's not like everything just vanishes and we suddenly become a happy family again. Given that the baby's mother was once the love of my life, I just don't think it's a good idea to try to build a relationship with him. Honestly, I don't even know if his parents would have wanted that. Most of the comments here validated my decision not to meet them right now. It's not something I have to do. They have people looking after them. I don't, so I have to take care of myself. I don't consider them my family, so I don't understand why I should act like they are. Accidents happen every day, but you don't see strangers stepping in. I haven't answered my parents' calls or messages because I don't even know what to tell them. I tried to explain my perspective, but they simply don't understand. I decided to keep ignoring them until I have no other choice. I have my own life and work to focus on, and I hope that will be enough of a distraction. Update 2. My parents decided to visit me today. I had been ignoring them for weeks, and I guess they reached their limit. It's the weekend, so I couldn't even use work as an excuse, and I had to talk to them. They showed up this morning, and I had to let them in. They didn't bother with small talk before getting straight to the point. They said they noticed I was ignoring them, but now that they were here, I couldn't do that anymore. They demanded an explanation for my behavior and said I was being incredibly selfish, acting like the difficult person I've always been. They admitted that what happened 2 years ago wasn't fair, but insisted that Caleb and Jenna loved each other and I couldn't have stopped it. They told me I should have been grateful to find out on our engagement day and not after we were married, so they saw no reason to feel bad for supporting them. They also said that even if I felt betrayed, I shouldn't act this way now, because the accident was bad enough. The last thing the family needed was for me to be so cold that I couldn't forgive them after what they've been through. I was surprised they were pushing this idea that I should just forgive them because they had an accident, as if it were some sort of cosmic justice and I shouldn't worry about it anymore. I didn't say anything and let them speak, saving what I had to say for the end. They told me I should take this as a sign to make peace, because no one can predict what will happen. That's when I got really upset. I interrupted them and said that even in a hypothetical world where I agreed to help, it would be very strange. What if I visited the baby, started to build a relationship, and then Caleb and Jenna suddenly got better and decided they didn't want me near him? I would have gotten attached only to have him taken away. On top of that, it was odd for my parents to be here wasting their time arguing with me instead of being at the hospital with their son. I told them they would be better off going back to the hospital. They seemed offended and said they only came to me because they thought I was the only person who could take care of my nephew, just like my brother would have done for me. They claimed that when Caleb and Jenna recovered and found out I had visited and built a relationship with the baby, they would have been happy. They didn't seem very convinced saying it, and they shouldn't be. We haven't spoken in 2 years, and our relationship ended badly. They never showed any remorse, and I seriously doubt they would be happy if I tried to bond with their child. Anyway, I told my parents my final decision was that I wasn't going to see them, at least not right now. I still need time to process how I feel. I know nobody cares about my feelings, but I do. I stayed out of their lives and never bothered them. So now it's their turn to respect my feelings. I thought they would start arguing again, but fortunately, they seemed to understand and gave up. They still said they expected me to step up, but I told them not to get their hopes up. I said I was hoping and praying for Caleb and Jenna to make a full recovery, because I truly mean that. I didn't want to sound insensitive. I even gave them a box of chocolates I had bought a few days ago for a friend. I thought it would be better to give it to my parents for Caleb and Jenna. I told them that was the best I could do. They're gone now, and I feel a lot more relieved. Update 3. I'm not sure I wanted to find these things out, but I did, so I think it's only fair to share them. My ex-fiancée and my brother had been cheating on me for a long time. It's not surprising, but it still hurts to know. I know this because my mom sent me a rather long email. Here it is so you can draw your own conclusions. Subject: from Mom. I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, and I feel it's necessary to tell you a few things. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's time to be completely honest. To start, I am very disappointed in how you've handled things. The way you distanced yourself from the family, especially during this difficult time, hurts me deeply. I won't lie, I never imagined one of my own children could be so selfish. Instead of being here with us, supporting us through what is happening to Caleb and Jenna, you chose to stay in your own world as if we didn't matter. You know, I've come to be thankful that Caleb and Jenna discovered their feelings for each other before you and Jenna got engaged. Yes, I said it. They are good kids, kids who truly care about their family and have always been there when we needed them. I don't know what happened to you, but I feel like we lost the son we once knew. You let your resentment push you away from the people who loved you most. Caleb and Jenna, despite everything, have shown they are strong and united. Yes, their relationship didn't start in the best way, but you know what? I am grateful things turned out this way, because they deserve to be happy together, and we as a family are here to support them. You could have been a part of it. If you ever decide to put your pride aside and realize what really matters in life, we will be here. But I want you to know that every day you choose not to be with us is a day you push yourself further away from your family. I love you, Mom. I won't comment much on the absurdity of blaming me for all of this, but the fact that she knew they were already involved beforehand and that they didn't just discover their feelings that night as they claimed is a whole other story. I don't know if my mom knew from the beginning or found out later, but it doesn't really matter anymore. My family is a complete disaster, and I am very happy to have cut ties with them. Update 4. It's hard to write this, but I think it's necessary. Unfortunately, Caleb didn't make it. After weeks in the coma and the complications that arose, his body just couldn't hold on. He passed away a month ago, and it was a very hard blow for all of us. Even though I had a lot of mixed feelings towards him, I can't deny that losing him hurts. He was my brother. And if you're wondering, no, I did not attend the funeral. Kim, on the other hand, managed to pull through, but not without consequences. The accident left her with lingering effects. She has mobility issues in her right leg and lost some of her short-term memory. She is in rehab, and though her progress is slow, the doctors are optimistic. That said, it won't be easy for her to adjust to her new reality. What relieves me most is knowing that the baby won't have to grow up completely orphaned. Although he lost his father, he still has his mother. That is all I've been able to learn over these past few months, because after my mom's last email, they haven't contacted me again. Everything I know, I learned through third parties. I guess this will be the conclusion to my story. Comment. What stands out most in this story is the incredible strength it takes to choose yourself. Setting boundaries, especially with family, can be one of the hardest things to do. However, protecting your own peace and self-respect is never selfish. It is a powerful reminder that you can be a kind and compassionate person while still saying no to situations that harm you. We cannot control how others act, but we are always responsible for our own healing and happiness. Life isn't always about grand gestures of forgiveness. Sometimes, it is about quietly closing a door to find your own way forward. The story also shows us the importance of having empathy for the innocent individuals caught in the middle of adult conflicts. It encourages us to build a life so full and meaningful that no amount of outside drama can truly shake it. Remember to be kind to yourself first, because from that, all other kindness can grow. I hope you all find your own version of that peace. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.